Hi everyone, it's Marie here. Happy June. We are digging in, continuing our conversation about the mid-year review process for your small business. Those of you who follow online, if you're in the She Runs It Women of Color Entrepreneur Group, then you may recall that earlier this year in January, we did a deep dive into annual planning for your business. And we took a look at a number of different areas where you could grow and focus your attention for the year. And so, of course, now, 6 months later, is a good time to check in on how you're doing against some of those goals and those expectations that you set for yourself. Now, I know looking at an entire year of your business can seem really overwhelming, which is why I'm jumping on today to make sure that you at least have 3 concrete areas that you can focus on for your business. Now, there are 3 key places for you to look at how your business is performing during the year. Today, we're going to dig into each of those 3 places, and I'm going to give you some action steps, some to-dos to help you think of new goals and new benchmarks to set for the next 6 months of the year. This is something that you can do every year. I like to do it all the time. You can even do some of these things quarterly or monthly to help hold yourself accountable to what's going on in your business and the vision that you are creating day to day. The first area that we're going to look at is your finances, the money. Now, of course, many of you, I'm sure, are already saying, of course, Marie's going to talk about money. Marie always talks about money. Marie loves talking about money. And yes, all of those things are true. Today, though, we're talking about kind of a quick checkup on how things are going with the finances in your business. This means you're looking at 3 main areas. The first one is looking at your income goals for the year. So many of you, again, if you did the annual planning tool and exercise, you set a big number for what you wanted to make for annual revenue this year. Now is a good time to look at revenue to date. So just looking at the last, January through May, or right up to today, right? We're somewhere in mid-June, looking at how your business is performing revenue-wise. What did you bring in, right? And if you're looking at your performance for the next half of the year, do you expect that you're going to want to make just as much, more, or can you relax on some of your revenue goals for this year? So revenue is the first thing that you're going to want to look at. It's a nice way to see if you're actually bringing in what you said you wanted to. And then, of course, if you're not, this is an opportunity to set some new goals. How can you bring in more clients, more projects, additional revenue streams? What is it that has not gone according to plan so far this year? Of course, if you're ahead of goal, then this is a good place to look at what's going extremely well, what worked that you maybe weren't anticipating, or what's working better than you anticipated, and how can you maintain that for the next 6 months of the year. That's the first bucket. The second bucket, when we're talking about income and the money, is looking at your cost of goods sold. So anyone who sells tangible products, this is where you're looking at how much your raw materials costs. Are there any opportunities for you to bring any of those down? And how are you really keeping pace for those expenses for the year? So if you budgeted a certain amount for the entire year of what you thought your cost of goods sold was going to be, are you on target? Are you slightly behind? Are you way ahead and you're blowing through that cash too fast? That's a good place to look as well for how your business is performing. And the third area, of course, now we're getting into your general administrative expenses. So SG&A, this is looking at all of the other operating expenses for the year. How are things going when it comes to your salary? Maybe you're hiring contractors, or you've got a coach, or some additional training for yourself, office supplies, rent, all of those other expenses. Software, that's a big one, right? So looking at how you're trending on some of those expenses. Are you on pace, or are you spending too quickly at this point in the year? The reason that we're looking at these 3 areas, your income, COGS, and SG&A, is because those are the 3 numbers that are going to impact your bottom line and your net for the year. This is where we're starting to talk about your profit, okay? So if any of those numbers aren't on pace, then we already know your bottom line for the year is not going to be on track. So take some time, look at, are you making the revenue that you wanted? Are you spending more than you anticipated, spending less? And how is that going to impact your bottom line? And then you can decide some different things in terms of actions you can take. Already with income, we know you can look at getting more clients, increasing revenue streams, launching a new product to help impact those revenue lines. You can also raise your prices, okay? So there's a lot we can do when it comes to playing with our income numbers. Now is the time of the year when you should decide what that strategy is going to be for the next 6 months. Same thing on the expensive side, whether that's going to be your COGS or your operating expenses, the SG&A. Start determining, well, how do I need to play with or change these numbers in order to still meet my bottom line? If revenue stays static, that means it's not going to change at all, then in order for us to help that bottom line grow, then we definitely need to decrease some of the expenses on the COGS and SG&A side. So take a look at some lines that maybe you could cut, cutting back on marketing, consolidating software expenses, limiting how much time or hours you give to your VA. Start thinking about how you can recoup some expenses, maybe finding cheaper office space or not using so many co-working spaces. There are a lot of things that you can do to help impact the bottom line that way, okay? So that's my whole spiel on finances. Let's talk about the next area that you can look at as part of your mid-year review for your business, and that's going to be in your services rendered. So this one is another way to track. I'm a big fan of having measurable goals, right? SMART goals, y'all know me. But if you're looking at your business in terms of how many clients you wanted to serve, maybe that was the measure that you set at the beginning of the year. Now is a good time to check in and see, well, how am I doing on my client retention numbers? Do I have the number of clients served, the number of projects booked for this year that I said I wanted to? And if not, what am I doing about that, right? So maybe you're coming in a little bit under, you don't have as many clients as you liked. And so now is a good time to look at why that might be, right? Is it that pricing wasn't quite the right fit? Is it that your marketing efforts haven't been up to snuff? Are you not doing enough discovery calls or follow-up calls? What is going on in your pipeline where maybe the services aren't going out the way that you anticipated they would? And of course, if they're not going out the way you wanted to, that's definitely going to hit that revenue line, which of course we know now if expenses remain static and revenue isn't coming up to where it needs to be, then we're going to have less profit at the end of the year. So start thinking about what you're going to do to help boost your services rendered for the year. This is where you can start thinking about the sheer number of clients you served, also the number of revenue streams, which I mentioned a little bit before when it comes to income. Also looking at percent to goal. Are you at least halfway there for the numbers that you wanted for the year? And if not, okay, great. How can we kick it into gear and multiply our efforts on the back end of the year? This is also a good time to look at the activities that you're doing to help get new clients into your pipeline and exposed to your business. This is where sitting down and really looking at your marketing strategy can really help change some of these numbers. Okay, so we talked about revenue, we talked about services rendered. The third area that we're going to talk about as far as your mid-year business review is taking a look at how you're performing against your mission. Now, this one is really fun. I actually had a great experience doing some networking. Last week, I met up with a new friend, colleague, who I met over a year ago. He sat in a workshop that I did around business finances, and he and I were just chatting it up, talking about new things. I was telling him about my course on Udemy and my Facebook group and all these amazing things that are going on for me. And one of the things that he asked me was, well, how can I help you? How can I help you do what you're doing? And I was a little bit blown by the question, right? Because I'm like, well, I don't know that there's anything that you can do for me, which of course is not true. But this is where we're really starting to think about, okay, well, what's my mission? What is it that I'm actually trying to accomplish? Why is it that I'm providing these services and coming up with revenue streams and all of those things? And oftentimes people get caught up in the day-to-day of their business, and then we don't step back and look at why we're doing all of this, right? The mission, the vision of the organization. And those of you who know me or have been poking around on the High Tides website, you know the mission and vision of this organization is to really create and drive long-term wealth for communities of color. This is looking at generational wealth. This is creating more businesses and creating self-sustaining communities that are built on people of color. And the way I choose to do that is by offering public speaking training and money workshops and small business development consulting, right? But that is all in service of a really large goal. So when someone asks, well, how can I help you? Make sure you know the answer to that question, because people will want to help you as you continue networking and building your business. And so make sure you're understanding and really clear about those access points. So when I think of the mission statement of my company, I go right back to my I help statement. If you don't have an I help statement, or you're not clear what yours is, or it's still evolving, now, midpoint in the year, is a good time to revisit that. Right? Is it crystal clear when someone comes to your site, when they look at your business cards or any piece of marketing material, who it is you help and how it is that you help them? Okay, so that's one place to look. Look at your email signature, right? Look at your business cards. Look at your voicemail. Is it clear who you help and how you help them in all of those places, so that people know how they can support you in your growth? The other thing you can do is take a look at how your activity has helped you fulfill your vision, right? So I think about, right, if I'm helping build generational wealth for communities of color, great. I had a whole bunch of public speaking clients this year. I had a slew of folks who came for coaching, executive coaching, but not as many who are leveraging the money coaching, the financial coaching. So maybe that's an area of my business where I can really bolster and think of other ways to get that content and information out into the interwebs, into the universe. Okay. So again, going back to the mission, the vision of the organization, and how I'm fulfilling on those things. Okay. So those are 3 areas for you to look for your mid-year business review. First, take a look at your money, identify what came in, and those 2 areas where money came out. Either the cost of you creating and facilitating your product, or your general operating expenses, things like your internet connection and your cell phone bill and subscription services and networking dues and website upkeep and all of those things. What can you change to make sure you're locking in that bottom line number? And then as you take a look at some of those numbers, you're of course going to move right into our second category, which is looking at services rendered, the number of clients you've served, the number of products that you've sent out. How can you impact that number? This is also going to segue nicely into looking at a marketing refresh for you. And then finally, the last bucket is looking at how you're performing against your mission and the vision of your organization. Are you clear about your I help statement? And are others clear as well, so that it's very easy how people can access you and spread the word about what you're doing to help your vision become a reality? All right. Those are my tips for your mid-year business review. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Come see us over at She Runs It, because we will have a webinar on this topic later this month. And I look forward to seeing you grow and blossom. All right, my friends, that's it for now. Talk to you soon. Bye.